Weilà raga, come state? In today's video, I'm going to be handwriting some notes with you guys. We're going to be looking at direct and indirect object pronouns. I'm going to see if I can throw in also some double object pronouns. This is the number one thing that students come to me with trouble with. So we're going to look at them together. I've already done some introductory videos explaining how these are used. I highly recommend checking out all of those videos if you haven't seen them yet, and then come back and check out this video. Or if you feel like just jumping straight into the deep end, let's do it. Let's try to learn this together. And I've also got an exercise available on my store if you'd like to take a look at that. There is a lesson within that as well. I think I also have some stuff on my blog, and then I also have a Weilà University video and accompanying lesson that also has homework that goes with that too. So I've got tons of stuff if you guys are looking for it, and I've got all those links down below. All right, so I hope you guys don't mind that I'm going to be handwriting things. I did a video on the passato prossimo doing this, and so I had a lot of fun doing it. I know a lot of you guys liked it, so let's do this again with object pronouns. So I'm going to be abbreviating today IOP and DOP. So the DOP is for direct object pronouns, the IOP is for indirect. Now, how are these used? Just to give a quick background. So the direct object pronouns, these answer the question who or what. So who or what in a sentence are we talking about? The indirect object pronouns answer the questions to whom, or to who, if you like saying that instead, or to what in a sentence. In other words, the indirect object of a sentence receives the direct object. The direct object receives the action of the verb. So let me break that down, because this is not something that we always talk about in everyday conversations, right? So there's something I'd like to tell you guys about called SVO. That is subject, verb, object, word order. Both Italian and English have this. So in every sentence, we've got a subject, someone doing something. We have a verb, that's what they're doing. And then we have the object, that's what's receiving the action of the verb. Now the indirect object receives the direct object, which receives the action of the verb, which is done by the subject. So you can kind of think of us working backwards then at that point, if that helps. So I'm going to show you what this looks like with some examples. So if I said to you simply, and I used this very same example in my direct object pronouns video, you know Tom. So in Italian, this would be the optional tu, because you don't need the subject pronoun. Tu conosci Tom. So we have here the subject, the verb, the object. Now you could say that because we don't need the subject pronoun, the subject and the verb are one in Italian, which is true, because conosci is the only conjugated form for tu, so we always know who you're talking about. But just for the sake of lining everything up nicely with English and Italian, we've got this. So you know Tom, conosci Tom. Now, there's something we can use called a direct object pronoun to replace Tom. Now, why would we ever want to replace something like someone's name? Well, that's because we don't want to be repetitive. We don't always want to repeat someone's name. So, let me put this back to black. We're going to say, you know him. So we're going to rewrite the sentence. You know, and now in blue, I'm going to put the direct object pronoun. You know him. In Italian, this would be just conosci. You don't need the subject pronoun. Conosci. I'm putting this here on purpose. It's not supposed to go here, okay? Just to show you word for word. Conosci lo. You know him. But here's how we do it in Italian. It doesn't go there. This direct object pronoun goes before the verb, okay? Lo conosci. That's how it works in Italian. That's actually why I enjoy writing things, because we can move stuff around like that. I hope it comes up on the recording. So you know him in Italian is him you know. All they do is put the direct or indirect, we're going to see that later, object pronoun before the verb that it's related to. That's it. That's the only difference that we see here principally from English and Italian. So now let's see this in a little bit more context, okay? Let's say instead, is it true that you know Tom? This would be, è vero che conosci Tom. È vero che conosci Tom? Is it true that you know Tom? Now, what happens if you wanted to respond by saying, yes, I know him? We would respond by saying the following. Sì, lo conosco. Just like we did before in our first example. Yes, I know him. So in English, it goes after the verb. Okay, no big deal. In English after, in Italian before. This is essentially how we use these. What I like to do is also show people all of the object pronouns next to just one conjugation of the verb, just so that they can get comfortable with seeing and hearing these things. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. I'm actually going to put all the object pronouns in blue. So we have me, ti, lo, la, ci, vi, and I'm going to put li and le here because I want them on the same line so we can look at everything all together, okay? So, mi conosco means, conosco, that means I know myself. Ti conosco means I know you, because it's you, I know. So in Italian, we say who or what first. Lo conosco means I know him or I know it, because the third person pronouns in Italian are used both for people and objects. La conosco means I know her or it. Ci conosco, which can sound a little funny in both languages, means I know us, but it could work. You could think of a context with that, right? Vi conosco, I know you, but you plural, so I know you guys. Li or le conosco means I know them, just depending on the gender of the things that I'm talking about. So sometimes I like looking at one conjugation of the verb with all of the different direct or, in another case, indirect object pronouns next to it. That way it helps me to hear something and I know what it's supposed to sound like. So I can take all of these and make a sentence out of them. I just have to add more to it. So let me show you something else. Let's do instead. Let's see what we've done so far. I want to keep everything kind of in the same ballpark. So if we took this very same sentence, yes, I know him, and instead it was yes, I know her, what would we do? Well, if you take a look here, we're just going to need this. La conosco. That means I know her. So no, non la conosco. No, I don't know her. So for example, no, non la conosco. That means no, I don't know her. What happens though if we have two verbs? I'd like to show you guys what that looks like. So this is not a tempo composto. Tempo composto, I'll show you what that looks like. Tempo composto means a compound verb tense, for example, passato prossimo. I'll show you what that looks like. But we don't have two verbs conjugated next to each other in the present tense. Because if I said, voglio conoscere Maria, that means I want to know Maria. How could I rewrite this? With, instead of saying Maria, saying I want to know her. Voglio conoscerla, or la voglio conoscere. Because when we're not dealing with a tempo composto, we've got one verb conjugated. The one that follows is in its infinitive form. It's not conjugated. And so we can just eliminate that last E at the end of conoscere, and we can throw la next to it. So voglio conoscerla, I want to know her. The word order is very similar to English. Or we can say instead, la voglio conoscere. It is her that I want to know. So that's how we also deal with it with two verbs. I'm going to show you, just for the fun of it, what it looks like in a tempo composto, so using the passato prossimo, because there is something special that we do with the third person pronouns that we don't normally do with the verb avere. We agree things in gender and number. So I'll show you what that looks like. So we already saw la voglio conoscere. What if it was I wanted to know her? How would that look? So we would say la ho voluto conoscere. This is actually really straightforward. If you know your passato prossimo and now you know your object pronouns and where to put them, they just go before the verbs that they have to do with. So, la ho voluto conoscere. I wanted to know her. But here's something that we can do. We can actually combine the la and the o. And this becomes, I'm going to put it in blue, l'ho voluta conoscere. Now, why did we do that? We never agree gender and number with the verb avere. This is an exception to that rule. When dealing with the third person, singular or plural, direct object pronouns, we do. In a tempo composto like the passato prossimo. So, l'ho voluta conoscere. You could think of it this way. We don't know what's in that little family of L with an apostrophe. So that's why we have to change the ending of the main verb. You can think of that, if that helps. It's not something that stands true for every situation. I'll show you why. If I wanted to say I wanted to know a group of people, like I really wanted to know, let's say, your friends, something like that. So let me first put it in the present tense. So voglio conoscere I tuoi amici. That means I want to know your friends. So how could I replace I tuoi amici, this direct object, with a pronoun? It would be li. So I would say li voglio conoscere or voglio conoscerli. There's no difference. Same exact thing. It's just we're replacing that direct object because this is not a tempo composto. But now we're going to put this in the past tense, okay? So it's going to be ho voluto conoscere I tuoi amici. Okay, I wanted to know your friends. So now we're going to replace I tuoi amici once again with li. Li ho voluti conoscere. So here in this example, we do not combine li with avere. These two do not go together. We only can combine lo and la onto avere. So, lo plus avere can become l'avere if it's not conjugated, just to show you. La plus avere can become l'avere as well. However, li and le, they don't do that. So now moving on from here, let's take a look at the indirect object pronouns. So we're going to use the verb portare. Portare means to bring and is very easy to use with indirect object pronouns. So I'm going to show you though portare used with all of the indirect object pronouns, just using the io conjugation of portare. So we have mi porto, I bring to me, ti porto, gli or le porto, ci porto, vi porto, and then finally, gli porto again. Now there is a tendency to instead say a loro porto, especially when it's a little unclear given the context. You could just say a loro, because for any of the indirect object pronouns, instead, you could say, I'm going to put a little thing like that, a me porto, a te porto, a lui or lei porto, just got to throw an I at the end, a noi porto, a voi porto. This is an alternative. I wouldn't suggest always doing this, but if this helps you, go for it. So let's show you now how we use portare actually in some context here. So I'm going to say porto il libro a te. It's not perfect Italian to say a te like that, but we're going to do it for now. That is the indirect object of this sentence because it is what's receiving the direct object. So I bring what? I bring the book. And now the book is going to whom? it's going to you. So a te is what we're going to be replacing in this sentence because now we're just doing the indirect object pronouns, okay? So this is going to become ti porto il libro. So to you, I bring the book. I bring the book to you is essentially what it means. So both sentences mean the same thing in English. But now, let's say, what if you asked yourself, well, what happens if I want to shorten this even more and say I bring it to you? So replacing this direct object. Well, if we replace this direct object, it's going to become lo, just like we do in any situation. And so this sentence will now become te lo porto. Now, why did ti turn into te? That's because when we're dealing with our double object pronouns, which I don't want to write all of them out just yet. I just want to explain this first. Usually, the pronouns that end in an I turn into the letter E. So, now let me show you. All right, so let's look at the combined pronouns. So, pronomi combinati, otherwise known as double object pronouns or combined object pronouns. So, I'm actually going to put these in a little table because that is something that really helps. I'm going to do all of the indirect object pronouns on the left-hand side, and then the direct object pronouns, the third person ones, because we usually only use it with those, here on the right. So we're going to make a little table, okay? So we're going to have me, ti, ye, then le, because they're the same. Yeah, so we're going to put those guys together. Li and le, chi, vi, and then ye again. And now we have lo, la, li, and le. Okay, so here's how it's going to work. We have, we'll put it in red. Let's be different. Me lo, me la, me li, me le. Then we have te lo, te la, te li, te le. Now, ye and le just becomes ye, and all we do is we add an e at the end of ye. So it becomes G-L-I-E, and then we add lo. And this actually becomes one word. G-L-I-E-L-A, G-L-I-E-L-I, G-L-I-E-L-E. See how that works? Now we're going to do chi. Chi becomes che, che lo, che la, che li, che le. And you see the pattern now? So take a guess at what V is going to be. Let me try to leave these all here. Ve, lo, ve, la, ve, li, ve, le. And now what's the third person plural going to be? The same exact thing as the third person singular. So, yelo, yela, yeli, yele. See how that works? I really enjoy handwriting things, and I like making charts and stuff like that. I don't go overboard because I feel sometimes that can get in the way, but for this especially, I think this is a really effective way of learning this. So, going back up here for a moment, I think I can keep both on the same page. Yep. So going back here, we have te lo porto, right? Well, what is that te lo? Well, te lo is what happens when ti is next to lo. So the indirect object pronoun ti is next to the direct object pronoun lo. It becomes te lo. Okay? So you can kind of think of this table as a point of reference, a punto di riferimento, as we say in Italian. So that's why this becomes te lo porto. Okay? Let's show another example, and we'll do a plural one this time. I often like using it in the io conjugation because I find that to be good just to focus on one conjugation instead of getting ourselves all confused with others. It's good to be ambitious, but sometimes we don't want to be overly ambitious. All right, so let's do another one with porto. And let's use to you guys. So we're going to use to vi, okay? So I'm going to say porto I fiori a voi. That means I bring the flowers to you guys, or to you all, depending on how you want to translate it. So the first thing I want to replace is the indirect object. To whom are we bringing these flowers? To you all. So the indirect object pronoun for voi is the same as the direct object pronoun. It's just vi. And we put it right before the verb that it has to deal with. Vi porto I fiori. Super. Now what I would like to do is take it a step further, and I want to now replace the direct object pronoun. The direct object pronoun for I fiori, for them, masculine, so it's masculine, plural, it's the third person masculine plural. It's li. So what it would be, but it's not going to be this, okay? I'm going to write this in purple. This is not correct Italian. Vi li porto, okay? If we put them all together. But here's the thing. We don't say vi li. Why? Well, take a look at our table over here. What happens when vi goes next to li? We have veli, okay? So I'm going to erase this just because this is not good Italian, all right? So we're now going to say in black, ve li porto. Ve li porto. I bring it to you guys. To you guys, them, these things, I bring. See how it works? So that's how we do direct object pronouns, indirect object pronouns, and then we went straight into pronomi combinati, the double object pronouns. Because once you have the framework down with the double object pronouns, you can then jump right into the indirect ones. And then from there, the logical next step is to go to the double object pronouns, the pronomi combinati. Do you always have to say ve li porto? The answer is no. You don't always have to say that. Is it cool if you're able to say that as a student of Italian? Yeah, of course it's cool. Does it sound like you've got a mastery of the language if you're able to think of that on the spot while you're thinking in the midst of a conversation? Yeah, absolutely. But you don't have to do it. It's very, very common just to replace either the direct or the indirect object of a sentence. So don't stress out about it too much. So I hope this little review has been useful for you guys, where we've handwritten these things together. We've gone through these things together. If you guys are looking for some more resources, I've got other videos. Just to name them off, I've got a direct object pronoun video, indirect object pronoun video, double object pronoun video, and all three of those videos have corresponding blog posts on my website. I also have learning resources available for purchase and download on my website if you want to. They're basically a lesson again written out, but then there's also a homework exercise with a corresponding answer key. I've got that on my website. And then I have a Weilà University lesson. I've got two. I'm pretty sure I'm separated them. I did direct and indirect object pronouns in one Weilà University lesson, another one for the pronomi combinati, and those have lessons that accompany them with a homework exercise and then a corresponding answer key. So I've got a bunch of things for you guys to work on. Let me know if you have any questions down below in the comments section. And thank you guys, like always, for tuning in and checking out this video. I appreciate it. Always remember to spread the love, and I'll catch you guys all next time. Ciao, ciao.